exactly what you need to know on the huge story of the day yesterday. Surprised a lot of people. Definitely surprised me. Dan Hurley is not going to Los Angeles, turning down a 6-year, $70 million offer from the Lakers. He is staying at UConn to pursue a third straight national championship. That's something that hasn't been done since UCLA in the 70s, led by their legendary coach, John Wooden. Hurley had this to say in a statement, quote, "I'm humbled by this entire experience. At the end of the day, I'm extremely proud of the championship culture we have built at Connecticut. We met as a team before today's workout, and our focus right now is getting better this summer and connecting as a team as we continue to pursue championships." So clearly a lot of reaction to this all day, but first and foremost, the information from the man who knows it, and that is Woj. This has been your story from the very beginning, Woj. So I got to be honest with you, I spent the whole weekend assuming it was going to happen. What happened? Why is Dan Hurley not the next coach of the Lakers?
Greeny, start with the opportunity Dan Hurley has at UConn, as you said, to do something that hasn't been done since John Wooden's UCLA teams. That's win a third straight NCAA championship. Probably never have that chance again as a coach. This is a unique time in his life and his career. That's number one. Number two, Dan Hurley really studied everything that was required to be an NBA coach and the adjustments he was going to have to make. As much as the Lakers wanted what Dan Hurley brought, his program building, his player development, the way he could forge relationships with players, you know, the great X's and O acumen. He was running a lot of stuff in college, you know, that's been intriguing to NBA coaches who they want to steal from a little bit. For all of that, Dan Hurley was going to have to adjust and knew that he had to be ready to make the adjustments in temperament, in practice time, all the things that come with being an NBA coach from college basketball. And ultimately, Dan Hurley wasn't there yet on doing that. And so they negotiated out a number, almost $12 million a year. It would have put him just behind Popovich, Steve Kerr, Ty Lue, coaches who have a combined 12 NBA championships and more than double what he was making at Connecticut. He had negotiated a new deal for himself with his agent weeks ago. That's going to be, I'm told, kind of in the $8 million plus range. It'll put him among the highest paid coaches in college basketball. But they never negotiated off that or leveraged off that with the Lakers. The Lakers was a singular moment for Dan Hurley. And it wasn't about getting his UConn number up. It already was up. And that was before UConn even knew about the Laker conversations. I think in the end for Dan Hurley, he wasn't ready to do the job. I think he loved what he heard in LA from Rob Pelinka, Jeannie Buss. He loved the idea of having Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and the group they have in the short term, and then working with Pelinka over time with a 6-year deal, to draft players, to find what Rob Pelinka told him would be Hurley-type players for the Lakers. He was going to have a hand in all of that. But ultimately, for Dan Hurley, at 51 years old, wasn't ready to make that move. And I think there was never really an instance in the last days of this where Dan Hurley told the Lakers, hey, if you hit this number, I am coming. He wasn't ready to come. And it wasn't about what the number was. Listen, the Lakers were taking some risk, too, that Hurley could make this adjustment, that as great as he is, that he was going to be a fully formed NBA coach. And that offer, certainly put him in the upper echelon of NBA coaches.
So maybe this isn't as much about the money as a lot of people were making when they saw it, and the initial numbers that came out yesterday. Woj, stay close by, because there are a lot more questions I have for you. But first off, first blush reactions here, because it feels like there are a lot of tentacles to this story, right? There's the impact on the college piece of this. We'll talk to Seth Greenberg about that a little later. But when you first saw this yesterday, what was your immediate reaction that Hurley was turning the Lakers down?
I wasn't surprised, and I'm less surprised now that Woj mentions an $8 million figure from UConn. 8 versus 12, you factor in taxes and cost of living, the thing shrinks, the gap shrinks. And look, he's got it made in the shade at UConn despite all the changes in college basketball. He's the king of college basketball. The Lakers' job is not that great of a job. They're a play-in team pretty much every year in a conference that is only getting better all around them, from the bottom and the top and the middle. It's a fight every year just to get out of the play-in. LeBron is almost 40. What's the vision for this team after LeBron leaves? Yeah, they have Anthony Davis. That's great. They have Austin Reeves, some other things. Like, you're not staring at a no-brainer championship window down the line. Every coach gets fired. I don't care how many years they have left on their contract, 2-3 years down the line, they get fired. And, you know, it's easy to say, someone's coming, a superstar's coming, and maybe that will be the case. We're not that far removed from the Lakers being a straight-up bad team for 5 or 6 years. I just don't think this is that great of a job. And it's not, I don't think the Lakers should be embarrassed that Dan Hurley turned them down. Yeah, they got public, and that's a little, I guess, embarrassing, but they'll get a good coach.
Speaking of coaches getting fired every 2 years, can we put full screen number 1 up there, Will, for everybody? Because in L.A., that has been particularly accurate. It's basically been a revolving door from the time Phil Jackson left. Just take a look at how many coaches they've had just going back the last dozen years. That's a lot of names. And, oh, by the way, they won a championship at one point in the middle of all of this. So it's not like they've been bad. They've been good for most of this time and continue to cycle out their coaches and bringing them in.
I think, to Zach's point, and to what Woj just reported, sometimes the dollar amount is not the thing that ultimately is the decision. Dan Hurley is in a tremendous position at UConn. We all know that. And then, too, like, I just think that the history, the track record of college coaches making the jump to the NBA does not say uproot your life and the pastures are going to turn much greener. It just did not seem like the most valuable option for his family. And frankly, I don't see Dan Hurley coming in and making the Lakers a championship team, however realistic or unrealistic those expectations are. But, like, that is the task in front of whoever is going to take this job in a very short window. We all know that's what the Lakers want to do.
Not surprised whatsoever when he turned it down. All along, over the weekend, I was thinking to myself, if he takes the job, it's going to be because the number's going to come out. That's going to be so big. He couldn't say no. He couldn't, like, justify to his own family, how do I say no to this, particularly when he has expressed desire to one day coach in the league. Here's what it comes down to for me. He is wired to do what he's doing right now. And you have to be wired differently to coach in the NBA. And maybe one day he will be wired that way. Right now, he's not. Everything is in his control. At the NBA level, a lot of things are out of your control. And I think guys like this that have this kind of success, they're control freaks. Let's be honest. And that's what Danny Hurley is. And right now, you can go recruit who you want. You can get them to run through a wall for you. You can get them to play whatever system you want. Coach them as hard as you want to. And he likes coaching guys hard. All of those things are different at the next level. And like I said, one day, maybe he's going to be in that state of mind. He is not right now. He has built this up to what it is. He wants to continue to do this the way he wants to do it. And that was going to change significantly in a situation, by the way, that's not going to win anytime soon. So for me, two jobs would have been more likely for him. A young team with a top draft pick that they just got or something, and now you can grow with them, turn them into a contender in 3 or 4 years, or, and it's happened sometimes, a ready-made winner. Like, come coach this team right now and contend. That's not what this is. And so what's the next iteration after LeBron even? No one knows what the Lakers look like. So if you add all of that up, Danny Hurley is where he is supposed to be right now. One day that might change, but this wasn't the right job for him.
So, Woj, now what in L.A.? That becomes the next question here. This does become, thanks to you, it became extremely public on Thursday. We spent 2 hours talking about it. So the whole world knows that they took this big swing and missed. That is what it is. Everyone can decide for themselves how bad a look they think that is for them. But one way or another, they have LeBron James, they have Anthony Davis, they have a good, if not great team. What's next for them?
Hey, Greedy, they're going to circle back, initially at least, with the group of candidates that they had already been interviewing. They had been in hot pursuit of Dan Hurley for several weeks, but they had also been interviewing a group of coaches, knowing that they may not get Dan Hurley. Among them, James Borrego, who is the top assistant in New Orleans. He had been a head coach in Charlotte, where you saw improvement every year. You saw very good player development, got in the play-in tournament a couple times with them. And he's in Cleveland right now. He's he's interviewing with the Cavaliers. Kenny Atkinson, the Golden State assistant, is expected to also be in Cleveland this week. Those are two of the prominent names in the Cavs search. But Borrego has already been into LA twice, came in an initial wave of kind of get-to-know-you conversations with Rob Pelinka, and then a more formal sit-down, dig-into-it interview. And you can expect they'll circle back with him again, and there'll probably be others, 2-3 coaches that they bring back in. And I think they can scour now, see, is there somebody else perhaps who becomes available that wasn't available 2 weeks ago or whenever that was. But I'm told their goal in LA is to have a coach in place by the draft on June 26th.
Okay, yeah, so that's basically 3 weeks from tomorrow would be when the NBA draft is scheduled for. Woj, outstanding as always.